Good morning. It's Tuesday, May the 12th, the year 2020. Our planet is under a satanic attack to bring us to a new normal. The topic of this video is, why do I get so angry and use such strong language in regards to the topic of prison censorship? A lady on Facebook asked me the backstory, so I'm going to tell you a backstory, and I can't type it all out in a Facebook comment, so I'm going to talk into a recorder. So recently, I was sent a notification through Corlinks, which is a prison email system that I was using to communicate. My wife and I were using to communicate with, my wife was receiving phone calls from Amy Gonzalez, and I was using Corlinks to communicate with Amy Gonzalez and also Julia Poff. Now, you have to understand that I believe with every fabric of my being that Amy Gonzalez is innocent, that she should not be in prison, that she worked for 27 years as a Texas nurse, serving her patients and doing a career to serve her community. And she never took a vacation. That's what she told me. And now she's been ripped away from her 14-year-old daughter, Tatiana, and her soulmate husband, Juan. And Amy would communicate with us not only to tell her story about how innocent she is, because if you read the mainstream media, you will believe that Amy and her brother David are monsters. But she would cry on Aaron's shoulder. I mean, they became friends. So not only do you want to become an advocate for these prisoners, but you get to know them as a friend and you get to care about them. And Julia Poff was in the very beginning stages of telling me how she was set up and that she did not mail a letter bomb to Obama and also Governor Greg Abbott, who I've made a video called Governor Greg Abbott Has Been Weighed in the Balances and Found Wanting. Now, I will use words such as when I receive a letter back from the prison that says return to sender, and they don't let our letters or Aaron's letters or my letters, and they've removed all of the people in the prisoners, Amy and Julia and others. There was others too, from FMC Carswell, Texas. Right? They've removed them from our prison Corlinks, and they will not allow them to call us. And the letters that we try to send in, they reject. So I will make statements like, I count them mine enemies. I hate them with a perfect hatred. When they are thrown into the second death, which burneth with fire and brimstone, they will get exactly what they deserve, right? Because it's very painful and hurtful for prisoners to be censored and silenced, and they no longer can put out their story, because that's what we do. Aaron and I have dedicated our lives to putting out prisoner stories and to encouraging and comforting prisoners, but they have banned us. They have censored us, right? So that's not just with Amy and Julia. There was another lady at FMC Carswell, Texas, called Elaine Brown. She's out of prison now. But for over a year, Aaron and I wanted to go visit her. We tried to fill out the paperwork multiple times, and they banned us they just denied us for no reason. I'm a chaplain. If I was an imam at a mosque, they would have let me in because it would have been discrimination. But they banned Aaron and I from visiting Elaine Brown for over a year, even though we filled out all the proper paperwork and gave them everything they wanted. When we filled out the paperwork for Amy before they permanently banned us from communicating with Amy, they said they lost the paperwork both times, even though I had proof that it was delivered to the prison. So that's just one story at one prison. Now I'm going to tell you about David Hinkson. Okay, so like I said, that was just one prison at FMC Carswell in Fort Worth, Texas, where the warden has banned permanently for life, banned me and my wife from ever communicating, whether it be phone call, letters, or Corlinks email, to any prisoner at his prison. And the reason that he used is he said it causes disorder, chaos, and a security risk to his prison. He also said it possibly could facilitate criminal behavior. Well, if telling the truth about prisoners in his prison, that they're innocent, is a criminal activity, if it facilitates criminal activity, or if it causes chaos or disorder for his prisoners to advocate for their innocence, then I guess I'm guilty of that, because I do advocate that Amy Gonzalez is innocent, and I wanted to know more about Julia Poff. So let's go to back to David Hinkson. David Hinkson is absolutely innocent. He's been over 15, 16 years in prison, in some of the most brutal prisons in America, ADX Supermax in Florence, Colorado. And he has medicinal cures and energy devices. He's a very talented genius of a man. God has given him incredible talents. Now, David Hinkson is in prison because of the testimony of one man. The man's name is Elvin Joe Swisher. Elvin Joe Swisher is a valor thief. He claimed he was a North Korean war hero. He was introduced to the jury as a North Korean war hero. He wore a Purple Heart pendant, but he never earned a Purple Heart. All of his credentials of valor, he even wrote a book, and it was all a big lie. He stole the idea for his book from somebody else. So his whole life, he's posed as a North Korean war hero when it's been proven in court that he is not, and he lied in front of the jury, and the jury believed his lies, and that's why David Hinkson is in prison for 43 years. Without the testimony of Elvin Joe Swisher, David Hinkson would be a free man. There is no other case against him. There's no recorded evidence. There's no audio. There's no other, any evidence. The jury only believed the testimony of Elvin Joe Swisher. We also have a letter from Elvin Joe Swisher's daughter that Elvin Joe Swisher molested her and her friends. Okay, so Elvin Joe Swisher is a piece of crap. But anyway, going back to David Hinkson. David Hinkson was in a Kentucky prison, USP McCreary. I was receiving his phone calls. I was putting out his story. David Hinkson was answering questions about his case. He was also telling the world about his energy inventions and his medicinal inventions. I believe David Hinkson has information which would apply to the coronavirus treatment. I truly believe that. There's another lady that I have nothing to do with that sent a donation to David Hinkson's friend. The money never went through Aaron or myself. It went directly to David Hinkson's friend. And as far as I know, that lady is very satisfied with her donation. She was not encouraged or coerced or anything. She just did it out of the goodness of her heart. David Hinkson came onto YouTube and thanked that lady for her donation that went to David Hinkson's friend. I think that friend has a YouTube channel called iEnergy or something. You can check it out, or maybe I'll find it and put it in the description. But this friend makes YouTube videos about David Hinkson's energy ideas, as well as about energy ideas of his own. Well, anyway, there was another lady that listens to the YouTube videos from David Hinkson. She was also communicating to David Hinkson at the time. Let's call her Miss M. Miss M, I believe, got jealous of the donation. She didn't understand what was going on, and she made up a lot of fantasy stuff in her head. She had no details, and she called the prison, and the prison notified the counterterrorism unit, Richard Blythe. His name is Richard Blythe. He also is associated with Terre Haute, Indiana. Richard Blythe received the complaint. That's all they need to do. And he received the complaint from ML, who I believe is a lady devil. She has an evil, wicked heart. She had no idea what was going on. And instead of asking David what the deal was and what the donation was all about, she just reported him to the prison that he was trying to defraud people. So Richard Blythe with the counterterrorism unit, who already doesn't like me because I have a prison ministry who unapologetically advocates for prisoners, and I talk about how bad the criminal justice system is. Richard Blythe used that complaint from Miss M, right? And he said in the complaint that Rudy Davis and David Hinkson are trying to defraud people of money. And he moved David Hinkson to Terre Haute, Indiana, under J.W. Cox, warden. And J.W. Cox already had a ban on my ministry. So I can no longer speak to Russell Landers. I cannot communicate in any way, shape, or form to Schaefer Cox, Martin Gottsfield, Kurt Johnson, Robert David Neal, who's now been murdered. And now that David Hinkson has been relocated from Kentucky over to Terre Haute, Indiana, I can no longer speak to David Hinkson, or not only speak to him on the phone, but communicate him. All my letters are rejected. All my core links emails have been stripped away. David Hinkson, Schaefer, Russell, Martin Gottsfield, and Kurt Johnson can no longer call me, right? And they only get 15-minute calls a week, maybe 1 to 2, right? And so they can't call me at all because they know that I'll put the truth out, and I won't be apologetic to the Bureau of Prisons or the wardens. So Miss M was an evil lady devil, and her complaint was used by the counter-terrorist organization under Richard Blythe to file a false report to relocate David Hinkson to Terre Haute, Indiana, where I can no longer speak to him. And let me say this, I have spoken very harshly about Terre Haute, Indiana, and I hate it that I cannot communicate to the prisoners at Terre Haute, Indiana, because I had a friendship with Schaefer Cox. I had a friendship with David Hinkson. I have a friendship with Russell Landers and Kurt Johnson. And I wasn't able to communicate with Martin Gottsfield to develop any sort of relationship. But these men are my friends. And for the warden to ban me for life from communicating with my friends is an evil, evil thing. And I hate them. I count them my enemies when I'm talking about the warden and the people in the mailroom. And when the second death come, they will get exactly what they deserve. For you, because you probably don't spend a lot of time trying to communicate to prisoners, it's not a big deal to you. But see, my wife and I have dedicated our lives to advocating for prisoners. So it's a big deal to us. It's a big deal. And so I hate it that they've blocked my communication. It's more than just blocking my communication with a few people. These are my friends. These are my brothers and sisters in Christ. And let me say something about censorship in general. They have censored so many things on YouTube, whether it be Sandy Hook or 9/11 or discussion about controversial topics. And when you ban people from speaking their mind about any topic, I guarantee you it's an evil satanic thing. The Lord wants us to fellowship and iron sharpeneth iron and to talk politely to each other about our differences. But to stop somebody from having a voice at the table or to stop people from communicating is an evil satanic thing. And I hate these wardens at these prisons that have done this. I hate the people at the mailroom that carry out these orders and send back my letters. And I pray for justice from God Almighty, that he will take care of this and deal with it in a way that he sees fit. And I'll end this video with how long, and they cried with a loud voice, saying, how long, O Lord, holy and true, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth?